Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Randomised Gaming, and this is our first commentated video of 2019, and this will be a playthrough of the 1981 arcade game Donkey Kong from Nintendo, and I will be your host for this video, Random Gamer Riven. Now, apologies for the slight lack of videos this past couple of weeks. I have been struck with a cold over Christmas, and I'm still sort of recovering from it, and you might hear me with a slightly croaky voice over this commentary. You might also hear me coughing a bit there. But as the video is briefly showing, this is the attract part of Donkey Kong, and yes, this is the original 81 Nintendo arcade game, and this is actually going to be done on the Japanese version, this playthrough. So one of the reasons I thought I'd quickly do this is I actually looked at Donkey Kong and realised there wasn't actually a huge number of high quality videos on Donkey Kong, surprisingly. Now, I should stipulate this is being played on MAME, and this is being played on revision 2.05, so 205. I believe the emulation is fairly close to the original arcade now. I know some of the earlier versions weren't as close. I know there's still some qualms over the audio with the Mario's walking sound effect, but I believe most of it's now cleared up in terms of emulation, although the game itself is not properly dumped looking from the actual MAME splash screen. Actually still says they're waiting for a proper dump of this, which does always, whenever I see that, says something about the actual retro game community, the fact we still can't yet dump Donkey Kong, despite the fact the number of players, etc., who claim to love it, but no one's actually bothered to properly dump the arcade board yet. Now, you can also get this on Nintendo Switch. In fact, it was released as part of a Nintendo Arcade Archive done by Nintendo and Hamster. Basically, that's one of the few actual arcade versions, then they've actually finally released the arcade version of this. But yes, if you have a Nintendo Switch, you can get it on Nintendo Switch. Obviously, as it's a Nintendo game, you can't get it on PlayStation or Xbox. I know the Arcade Archive has a lot of games, but sadly the Nintendo ones are, of course, Nintendo exclusive. Now, I'm actually playing on the Japanese set, and the reason for this is, as you saw, this is the third stage, and in the Western set, this is not actually in the first loop. You actually do one loop, and then the second loop adds in one stage, and then the third loop adds another. Whereas in this version, the Japanese one, you actually have to do all 4 stages in each loop, and I actually prefer that, being truthful. I actually played both versions and thought this one feels a bit more complete, because the problem is stage 4 is the hardest stage, and for that to be the second stage just seems a little bit odd to me. So I'm not overly keen on the Western version. When I was playing it, I much preferred this Japanese release, so I thought I'd go through and just play through the Japanese version. So this is a full playthrough, long play. We're going to play through the game twice, or I played through the game twice. I actually died during the third loop, but I'll include that at the end of the video. Sadly, I wasn't going to spend all my time, weeks and weeks, mastering the game so I could get up to what is effectively, well, I say the kill screen, it's actually the kill timer bug, or as we would call it professionally in the industry, it's a Class A non-progression caused by a timing issue related to an incorrect stream. I think the game starts seeing something as a negative value. Basically, when you get to loop 22 in the arcade game, gives you too little time to complete the stage and basically kills you before you get near the top. You can get to like the first floor, smack a barrel or two, and then it kills you because it doesn't give you enough time to finish the level. And that's basically the furthest you can get. Now, that kill screen's been in this game for a very long time. I'm surprised Nintendo haven't actually issued a patched version of the arcade where you could carry on past that screen and get even higher scores. But to date they haven't. Now, this is the 4th stage you're seeing here, and this is by far the hardest stage. You've actually got to knock out the pegs while avoiding these sort of flame dudes. Now, truth be told, I'm not actually that experienced with Donkey Kong. I was never actually a huge fan of this. I quite like that. Used to love the Game & Watch version. We still actually have a copy of the Game & Watch version. I always liked that, especially at the end we had to jump across the platform. But I was never actually a keen fan of the original arcade game. So this is, of course, the original arcade version. As I said, this is the Japanese version. And as you're aware, this is the first game Mario appeared in, although he was originally called Jumpman, and we have Pauline up the top there asking for help. Although she suspiciously, and I always felt this, looks like Princess Peach in this one, and I did wonder whether the Pauline name was some sort of Americanization, whether she's actually supposed to be Peach as well originally, because they tend to change it per the different localizations, and then Nintendo kind of kept some of those changes, etc. But she does look like Princess Peach and not the Pauline we see later. Or I should say she looks closer to Princess Peach. Wearing a pink dress much like Princess Peach, and she has a sort of light brown, yellowy coloured hair. Admittedly, I suppose Pauline nowadays has darker hair, does a dark brown hair, and Peach has sort of blondie, light browny, hence why I think the female character in this looks more like Princess Peach. But despite Donkey Kong being Mario's first adversary, he has rarely appeared against Mario in games. In fact, I'd love to have another Mario game where you actually fought Donkey Kong again. Although, in this case, it would actually be Cranky Kong, because, of course, for those who don't know, according to the Donkey Kong lore, the Donkey Kong Country games, although Donkey Kong Jr. appears to have only appeared in Mario Kart and appears to be swanning off somewhere, those games is actually Donkey Kong's grandson, and Donkey Kong himself is actually Cranky Kong, so it would be quite funny if we had Cranky Kong actually meet Mario, and maybe you'd need something to make him young again, at which point he probably decides he wants to get back at Mario, because that's the type of thing Cranky would do, as he always seems so miserable. But yes, to give their more modern names, it would be Cranky Kong versus Mario. And I guess he would be a bit cranky after being defeated by Mario so many times. So you can see the second loop actually increases the difficulty. In fact, the only real difference, there's a slight speed increase to some of the things, a few more enemies on screen, is that you'll notice in the top right of the screen it says L equals 02. That indicates I'm on loop 2. That will go to L equals 03 when I get to loop 3, which is also the last loop I got to before I died. And I did actually give myself a few extra lives as well, because I'm not actually a huge fan of these type of games. Although I appreciate what they did, I'm never a big fan of score-only games. I much prefer the sort of more progressive games that came along later. But yeah, it's actually interesting to compare the Japanese release to the Western one. And I do, as I said, I do quite like the way the stages actually transgress between the Western version, because of course you actually get a few extra stages. And I much prefer the flow, because like I said, the fourth stage is by far the hardest. So for that to be the second stage in the Western one, at least on the first loop, seems a bit slightly funny, because basically you're giving the player quite an easy stage and then a really hard one. Whereas this release, you build up to this one where you have to jump over the pegs and of course cause Donkey Kong to fall down. Now, it goes without saying Donkey Kong was a huge success for Nintendo as a game, and it was subsequently released on numerous formats, from the Nintendo Entertainment System to just about every sort of Atari system. Playing this game, you do quickly learn some of the quibbles of the AI, and I always felt this game was actually... These type of games I always felt were really hard, but once you begin to play them, you do begin to understand some of the quibbles and how to get around them. But the AI, I still find this type of game, the random AI, I actually find much harder than many other games, and I think it adds in a level of difficulty because you can't quite predict what's going to happen. As you see there, I should have gone up, but basically I was hoping the fire dude would go away. But sometimes you can be a bit sneaky and the AI will run away from you. Sometimes it will run towards you. So you have to, and sometimes it will go up and down ladders. You can't be sure when it's going to go up and down a ladder though. If you just look at the little fireball dudes, they very much have a mind of their own. And of course you have the iconic hammer as well. Grabbing the hammer is actually quite annoying because it prohibits the jump ability in the original Donkey Kong, and in actual fact, if you're trying to speed run it or trying to get as far as possible, grabbing it, really you should only do so as a last resort to kill an enemy chasing you, because the minute it restricts the jump, you can't really progress, and it's actually quite annoying. It's really more a mechanic to increase your score than anything, or to use the last ditch defense if you think something's going to get you, like you're stuck somewhere. Now I should point out you can't run across the top where Donkey Kong is. If you touch Donkey Kong he kills you, so you can't run across the top. The fireballs can go across the top, but weirdly they often will go up to Donkey Kong and then go back, but sometimes they will go fully across Donkey Kong, so they do very much, as I said, have a mind of their own. Nice little backwards jump there. I was surprised I was actually able to finish this second loop. I was a bit concerned I wasn't going to be able to do it, but I did. But yeah, I certainly had fun playing this, but interestingly, one thing I should say, I was surprised. This is actually I mean, I'm not entirely sure the exact frame rate, but it's certainly in the 60 frames region. It might be 59, like 58 or 57, but it's in the 60 frames region. And that got me thinking about all the sort of speedruns and stuff, because I actually thought if you're submitting videos for speedruns, you should be submitting a 60 frames a second video if you're doing the arcade version. So all these speedrunners saying about it, or speedrunning stuff, it made me think you should actually be doing a 60 frames video, because if you're doing a 30 frames, you're losing every other frame, and that means it's quite easy to edit something out if you're losing every other frame. Whereas if you're doing the full 60, okay, you're going to drop the odd frames. Even with most capture setups will occasionally drop the odd frames, as long as you're getting 99% of them. Now this of course is my last life, and I went to try and get to the end of the stage. I got close to, but sadly I did get taken out by a barrel towards the top. I think it was one Donkey Kong threw on top of me. There we go, and that's my last life. But yes, that was a playthrough of Donkey Kong. I wasn't going to get to the kill screen because that's going to take me ages of practice, and plus it is effectively the same game once you get past the first 4 stages. The only difference I noticed is Pauline has, there was a different theme tune on the first loop to the second loop when you rescued Pauline. But that's everything I think I need to say. I hope you've enjoyed this randomised gaming video, and I of course have been your host, Random Gamer Riven. Thank you, and as always, like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy our content.